We'd like to thank you for being at our annual meeting, and we hope that you enjoy it tonight. The first course of business, I guess, will be getting to the meal. And we have some wonderful folks here that are waiting on us and helping us. They're with the leadership group, and we'll be introducing them and getting them to come forward a little bit. Just to explain to you a little bit that's going on, you see some photographs here in the front. Those are going to be prizes that we will be giving away later on. If you want to take a look at those, some of them are historic, and one of them I think is a fresh photograph. So we'll be doing that along, and so we have a full program here tonight. I know they're busy, but I'd like to ask the young ladies and young men that are cleaning and serving, if you would just come and stand here in the front here, if you would just come up here for a moment. I'd like to tell you a little bit about them. We have a organization called Leadership here in Smith County, and we have adult and we have youth group leadership, and what it does is it goes around the county, and George, where are you? George McDonald, where are you? Everybody always brags on going to George's farm because they get to ride on the big combine. So everybody's always thrilled about that, and wasn't that all right? That was a great thing. We have some young ladies and young men here from the community, and they're helping us tonight, and we want to show our appreciation for that. If you guys will just kind of raise your hand. This is my youth leadership group, and I want to tell you a little story. We blinded the applications for this group, and we presented it to the committee, and so they didn't know. You couldn't tell if it was a boy, girl. You couldn't tell any relationships in the county or anything. And we had 30-something applicants, and when the committee was through, I went through all the little symbols at the end, and I put the applications they had picked, and then I joined them back up with the name, and lo and behold, we had 12 girls. So ladies, you must be smarter than we are. Anyway, with our youth leadership tonight, the group is helping us Tally Amburn. Tally, wave at them. Amy Goolsby. Amy had a little accident there getting here. Olivia Denton. Julie Garcia-Romo. And Peyton Hutchison. And we really appreciate them, and they were a great group to work with. They really enjoyed hiking Bear Waller Gap, didn't you, ladies? Yeah, want to do it again, right? Okay. We also have the Youth and Family Center here. Palissa White. Delisa? Okay. Delisa, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Delisa White. Sean Cedar. Kevin Webb. And KV Myers. And would you give these guys a hand? We appreciate them. Thank you very much for coming up, guys. Yeah, you can go. Also among us, we have some folks that are attending leadership this year, and I know they didn't expect this, but if you are in the current adult leadership group, I'd like to ask you, and Sheriff, I know I'm getting you in mid-bite there, if you would, that's okay, if you would stand, please. These guys are in our current leadership group. And as most of you know, the leadership groups picks a project out during the year, and they perform something for the county. Some notable projects. The one that's really notable is the Kidd Central Park that you pass at Crump Parish Park. If you've seen the castle down there, that was a leadership group that was instrumental in getting that done and getting it paid for. So we appreciate them. Also, last year's group was a good group to work with. They did the memorial to Dr. Donaldson over on the walking trail, which the walking trail was another leadership group. So these leadership groups do a lot of things in the county that mean a lot to us and help us here. We're going to move to the proclamation while Don's getting the video ready, and I'm going to ask Senator May Beavers and Representative Terry Lynn Weaver if they would to come forward.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here tonight. And if you look at the program, Bridging Past Successes with Future Opportunities, that has a very significant meaning, especially at this time, because here in just a few weeks, we're going to be having a ribbon cutting on the opening of the new revitalized bridge over here, and we're looking forward to that. But we wanted to honor the Chamber of Commerce tonight with a proclamation. So we have a proclamation from the state of Tennessee. Whereas the members of this body take great pride in recognizing those community-based organizations that are celebrating momentous occasions in their illustrious histories. And whereas the Smith County Chamber of Commerce is one such organization which on June 9th, 2014 will mark the 40th anniversary of its founding. For 4 decades, the Smith County Chamber of Commerce has remained committed to serving the needs of the community, abiding by its mission to encourage the growth of existing industries and businesses while giving assistance to any new industries or individuals seeking to locate in Smith County. And whereas the origins of this distinguished organization can be traced to 1974, when a group of local community leaders, Walter Glenn Birdwell Jr., Reggie Honey, John C. Maggart, and Jerry Futrell, sought to provide a means of improving the local economy through economic development and applied for a state charter to create the Smith County Chamber of Commerce. And we'll skip some of the history, and I'll ask Representative Terry Lynn Weaver to finish.
Okay. Whereas to mark this special occasion in the history of the Smith County Chamber of Commerce, former Vice President Al Gore, whose family's roots are deeply planted in Smith County, will serve as their featured speaker, having also been the speaker at the group's 20th anniversary in 1994. You remember that? Okay, that's a while back. Whereas for 40 years, the Smith County Chamber of Commerce has rendered sterling service to the good people of Smith County while cultivating positive growth in business and industry. And it is wholly fitting that this body recognizes the Chamber on this occasion. Now, therefore, I, Ron Ramsey, Speaker of the Senate of the 108th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, at the request of and in conjunction with Senator May Beavers and me, do hereby proclaim that we hereby recognize the Smith County Chamber of Commerce on the occasion of its 40th anniversary, applauding its services within Smith County these past 4 decades and extending our best wishes for its continued success in the future. Proclaimed in Nashville, Tennessee on the 2nd day of June 2014, signed by Speaker of the Senate Ron Ramsey, Senator May Beavers, and Representative Terry Lynn Weaver. It's an honor to serve you all, and we're just proud to be here. There you go, Billy.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be able to present the Leadership Award this year. And this award is a very deserving award, and this person is a very, very deserving recipient. The Leadership Award is presented each year to a graduate of Leadership Opportunity Smith County and who has used the knowledge, experience, and resources he or she gains from the benefits of the community and the leadership organization. I am so proud to announce this year's recipient, who is Miss Ruby Crawford. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Miss Ruby as she makes her way up here. Miss Ruby helps at the schools, all club events, and all types of events here in Smith County. Just a few of the things she's involved in is the New Militant Chili Supper, the FCA Club, Relay for Life, and Smith County Food Distribution, Backpack Program, Keep Smith County Beautiful, The Commodities. She's a graduate of the 2009 class of Smith County Leadership and is now on the Board of Directors. And it is my pleasure to present this to Miss Ruby. And also, this is your plaque.
Thank you.
You're,
Never thought of it. Never thought about it.
you're wonderful.
Thank you.
Let me tell you just a little bit about Miss Ruby's family. She was born to Edgar and Beulah Crawford, raised in Smith County. She was married to Mr. William Edward Crawford on November the 22nd, 1958. She has 4 children, 9 grandchildren, and 12 great-grandchildren. She retired from Robert Shaw Controls in 2000, but still plans the employee reunions every year. Too bad I don't have employees that are that long. She's an avid four-wheelist. She loves to travel, and she plans in the next few years to finish her visits to all of the states in the U.S. to include Alaska. Miss Ruby.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, you're in trouble. I've got a page speech here to give y'all, if y'all don't care. Just kidding. I want to say to Miss Ruby, we appreciate you getting the award. Tonight, my job is to give the Community Service Award. And I'm going to give a little bit of information about this person. They'll figure it out pretty quick. But the person receiving the Community Service Award was born in Kingston, New York, on July the 10th, 1941. I'd say there's not but one person that like that here tonight, so he figured that out pretty quick. Graduated high school at Kingston High School in Kingston, New York. And if, Mr. Bob, if I get some of this wrong, it's your wife's fault, by the way. This person served in the United States Navy for 9 years and was in the submarine division. This person has been married for 41 years and has 2 children, a son and a daughter. This person has been involved with the American Legion for many years, served as the commander of the local chapter up until this year. This person is also the Smith County Veteran Service Officer and has been in that position since October the 3rd of 2011. This person is involved with many things within the community, anywhere from church to volunteer work on someone's home or a worthy organization. Now, I got to say this before I mention his name. Mr. Bill Woodard is evidently not as convincing as I am. He's been trying to get this gentleman to come to the banquet for a while, and he told me today, he said, he's not coming. I said, oh, yes, he will. And he was at work, and I went to visit him, and I said, you're going to have to come to the banquet tonight. He said, I'm not coming to the banquet. I just don't do those things. I said, but you've got to. I said, there's a special thing there, and I wouldn't mention what it was. But as I left, I called Bill, and I said, he's coming. He said, how'd you have to make that happen? I said, I told him I'd fire him if he didn't come. But but Mr. Bob Baker, I want to ask you to come forward, if you would, please. Mr. Bob Baker. While he's coming up here, I do want to say just a little bit about Mr. Bob. I'm fortunate to be able to give this plaque and this award to Mr. Baker tonight. Even before he became the Veteran Service Officer in Smith County, Mr. Bob and I became very close in a lot of different ways. One thing I found out about Mr. Bob was we put up about 15 flagpoles in Smith County since I've been county mayor, and they're all over the place. Well, the first 1 or 2, I tried to tell him how to do it. That don't work with Bob. I always wanted to be the boss, but he always wanted to be the boss. So I had to learn that Bob was going to be the boss. And after I learned that, we got along a lot better, didn't we, Mr. Bob? Okay. All right. But this is a well-deserved award, Mr. Bob. He does a lot for our community, and I just want to thank him for what he does. But this award goes to Mr. Robert Baker.
Intimidation, a big stick works every time.
That's right.
The award that I have to present tonight is the Woman Business Leader Award. And I'd like to say a few words before I begin to say what is written here, because when I became part of the Chamber Board a few years back, much like the words that were said with these youth leadership ladies here, this lady, I think, by their explanation and terms today would be, she rocks. She is one that showed great enthusiasm, great leadership, and one that is very organized. She's got every T crossed and every I dotted. Now to read these words, and there's maybe a few things on here she may not want you to even know, but I'm going to read them anyway. The Women Business Leader of the Year award is given to a person who shows business acumen as well as a spirit of volunteerism here in Smith County. This year's recipients exhibit both of these qualities in her actions and also in her organizations that she participates in. In honor of her continuing contribution to Smith County Chamber of Commerce and Smith County, we're pleased to present this year's Women Business Leader of the Year award to Miss Judy Smith. And before she comes up here, let me read a few more things here about Miss Judy. Judy Smith is the daughter of Betty Smith and the late John D. Smith of Sykes. Judy is married to George Horn, and they live on Jackson Avenue in Carthage. Together, they have 4 children, George, Lacey, Derek, and Landon. They also have 8 grandchildren. Judy is a 1974 graduate of Gordonsville High School. She has been a local realtor in Smith County since 1990. During her 24-year career as a realtor, she has owned her own company and other small businesses in the Carthage area. She is currently licensed with Poindexter Realty. Judy is very active in her community and is currently serving on the City Planning Commission and the Carthage Zoning Board. In addition, she is on the Smith County Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. She serves as a chairman for the Smith County Tourism Committee, and that committee has taken Smith County very, very far with her leadership. A lot of activities, a lot of money has come into the Smith County because of her committee and especially because of her leadership. We should be very thankful, not only this past year, but she has set things in place for years to come for Smith County and this tourism. She is now working with the city mayor, and together they are forming a downtown revitalizing committee for the city of Carthage. May I present to you the Women Business Leader of the Year, Ms. Judy Smith.
Thank you. I'm very proud of my county.
No.
Good evening again. You notice how mine is neatly folded into. I did mine a little different, as I do a lot of things a little different than a lot of folks do. I've had the distinguished privilege to bestow over the last 3 or 4 years, I guess, different awards to different people. This year is especially special to me, and you'll soon find out why. The award that I'm giving is the Maggart Business Leader Award, and the recipient of this award this year is a 1965 graduate of Smith County High School. He went to proudly serve his country in 1967 in the Army, 2 years active duty, 6-year reserve. He got his degree from Cumberland University, followed by an additional degree from Middle Tennessee State University. Taught school at Defeated Elementary School, 5th and 6th grade for 3 years. He was employed at TVA during the construction of the nuclear plant. He was part of the security detail down there. Worked at the zinc mine for some time. In 1984, he bought Martin's Grocery from his father. my grandfather. My sister has said that she thought that he had done everything except perform brain surgery. He's been a member of the Peytons Creek Baptist Church for 31 years, continues to serve as a deacon and Sunday school teacher there. Most of you, I'm sure, have been in Martin's Grocery out in the defeated community and know what a fixture it is. And it's been 2 years, I guess, now. We celebrated 50 years of business as Martin's Grocery. As I said, my father bought the business from his father, who had bought his brother out quite some time ago. And it started out as a general merchandise store, just like so many businesses did in the time. Every little community had a store. Well, as times changed, so did the business have to change. And this is where leadership and management comes into play, and work ethic. We sold pinto beans in 25-pound bags, maybe 50-pound bags, I don't know. Daddy'd have to tell you. Galoshes, groceries, whatever you needed, you could go to your local general merchandise store and pick up. And up until I worked with Dad for 9 years before I got into real estate. And at the time I left, we were still running annual credit accounts for our farmers. And when they would go sell their crops, they'd come pay. No interest, no fees. We helped to keep our community alive and sustain the farmers around us. And because of those things and his work ethic, I felt like that he was a very deserving recipient of this award. And if you would, please help me to congratulate my father, Jackie Martin.
You shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't have done it. Thank you.
Would you like to, do you have a word that you'd like to say?
No, I'll relinquish my time to his speak.
Proof positive that some things do change. He always has something to say. Thank you.
Back in the old days of politicking, before the advent of television, Facebook and Twitter and all the other newfangled things that we have today, if a person ran for public office, he did it the hard way. He went from door to door, from street to street. He went from road to road. He went all over the county, the state, or wherever. And he earned that nomination or the election by going out and meeting the people on their own turf, so to speak. If you are a candidate for a state office or a federal office, such as governor or United States senator or a congressman, it was necessary to make speeches on mostly on Saturday, and it was a great occasion to have a great rally on the courthouse square or on the steps of the courthouse. And the candidate would always have a local committee, and that the local committee would be the ones that would arrange for the speaking, and one of the local committee would introduce the speaker of the occasion. And invariably, that introducer would start by saying, "The person I am about to introduce needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyhow." So this person that I am called on to introduce needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyhow. I want to present to you, and it's my great honor and privilege to do so, our neighbor and our friend, Al Gore.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for the warm welcome. And James Bass, thank you for your kind words and for being such a wonderful friend to me for all these years, and to my family, and your friend to everybody in this county. And we appreciate you very, very much. To the Smith County Mayor Michael Nesbitt, thank you, sir. To Senator Beavers and Representative Weaver, thank you all for sponsoring that resolution recognizing this gathering. And by the way, congratulations to the Chamber of Commerce on this 40th anniversary. It's quite an accomplishment, and I looked with admiration at the award winners. Congratulations to the award winners here. To all the public servants who are here, I recognized our county mayor, to the mayor of Carthage, Sabra Hodge, and mayor of Gordonsville, Milton Gibbs, and mayor of South Carthage, Jimmy Wheeler, to Jason Martin, the president of the Smith County Chamber of Commerce, and Billy Woodard, the executive director. I felt for you, Billy, on that video before they got it running. 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, I was in Singapore on the other side of the world, and the same exact thing happened to me. And boy, I know what that feels like before they get it going. That was a great video, and to all the staff who work so hard for the chamber. It's really been a pleasure for me greeting people I haven't seen, everybody that I wanted to visit with. I don't have my glasses on, but I don't need them to see Gordon and Sue Petty back there. And I saw Wally and Helen Birdwell coming in, and several others. Nancy Ligon. Nancy, I'm sorry I can't call your married name now, but Nancy was my next door neighbor, one house down on Fisher Avenue. We lived on Fisher Avenue before my parents built their house up on Highway 70 on the Caney Fork. And I thought it was going to be, of course, I spent my summers here and Christmas and whatnot, and spent really most of my schooling up in D.C. This was always home, and I'm sure that was partly because my parents, not just because they were in politics, but because they were rooted here, drilled it into me and my sister that this was home. Washington, D.C. was what they called in the military TDY, temporary duty, and that was duty for the kids as well. But this has always been home for me, and what a pleasure it was running into friends who I went to 4-H camp with, and Carthage Elementary for a little bit, and the swimming pool, and oh gosh, if some of y'all hadn't kept your mouths shut, I never would have been able to get into politics, and I really appreciate your discretion very much. I want to acknowledge my debt to New Salem Missionary Baptist Church, where And I've mentioned this in so many places. I went to Vanderbilt Divinity School. My oldest daughter is at Union Theological Seminary now in New York City, and I've spoken at Harvard Divinity School and Yale Divinity School and so forth, and I've told them all that the most important lessons I learned were at New Salem Missionary Baptist Church. And I say that in a very deep and sincere way. It really was an extremely important part of my upbringing. And James, you talked about that 1952 campaign. You're really taking us back a long ways. I was 4 years old then, and of course most of this group was not born then. And so I feel safe in telling a story from that campaign that the older group has probably heard more times than they can count, but it's literally a true story. In those days, there wasn't TV was, I guess it had been started somewhere, but it wasn't here. I remember the very first television set I ever saw in my life was in Clint and Catherine Beasley's living room on Main Street in Carthage, across from where the funeral home is. Both funeral homes are now. And oh gosh, that made a big impression on me. But back in 1952, there was no campaigning on television and not really on radio, even though radio was a big deal, and President Franklin Roosevelt had done the fireside chats and all that. It was very different in those days, and the signs that people would nail onto the telephone poles, utility poles, played a big part, and speech making, and as you said, going around and talking to people individually. And my father's opponent was chairman of the U.S. Senate Appropriations Committee, a very important post. And back in those days, there wasn't so much kickback about earmarking or whatever the phrase is. That was a powerful position. And Senator McKellar's supporters put up signs on the poles all over the state of Tennessee to try to play on that advantage of his. And the phrase they used was, "The thinking feller votes McKellar." Oh my gosh, it was just like a thunderbolt. And my mother got the credit for thinking up the counter. And they would let me, even as a little kid, just probably mostly symbolically, to go with my sister and help put the signs up everywhere there was a sign. And the rule was, don't tear them down, leave them there. Some of your supporters will want to tear them down. No, 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 just leave it there and put the other one right underneath it. And it said, think some more and vote for Gore. That is a true story. And I actually do remember that day in Lebanon. I was there with my Aunt Mandy C., who lived up in Elmwood on the south side of Highway 70, going after you cross the Caney Fork. And her oldest son, Alfred Gore Marks, and Aunt Chig, as I called her, and their children, I lived for several weeks, seemed like longer than that to me, during that 52 campaign in the heat of it. And so I was as glad to see my folks that day as they were to see me. And I still remember the outcome of that election. I remember going up to Washington with them. And I remember sitting, my father, I don't think it was a bad rule to break, but he did break the rule of no children on the Senate floor, and took me on the Senate floor and sat down in a little chair next to his desk there. And the page boy came up from the front where the vice president was presiding. They're usually not there, but he was there this time. Page came down with a message, and I just waited for him to hand it to my father. And he said, "No, it's for you." And I looked at it, and the vice president wishes to see you. 4 years old, five by then, I guess. And no, I was still 4, because I was born March 31, and this was in the opening session in that January-February time frame. And I walked down, and Richard Nixon picked me up and put me on his lap, and he was the nicest man. It was a terrible thing for him to do, because years later, I was deprived of the sublime pleasures of Nixon hatred that so many of my Democratic friends indulged in. I never could work it up to hate him the way so many people did, because he'd been so nice to me as a little boy. Thank you for inviting me to be here and to speak on this occasion. I've already told you how meaningful my association with Smith County has been to me throughout my life. My father came here because his father floated logs down the Cumberland River. And of course, Carthage was founded at the confluence of the Cumberland and the Caney Fork. And when my grandfather, Allen Gore, my father was actually born in Jackson County on the banks of the Roaring River, and moved to Smith County, really right across the county line to eastern Wilson County, and Possum Hollow is what they called the community there near Commerce. But when my grandfather, Allen Gore, and of course Allen and my grandmother Margie lived just one house, Nancy Liggins' family lived just down Fisher Avenue, and just above was where my grandparents lived. My grandfather, Allen, taught me how to spell. And I remember being in their house and seeing a picture that my grandmother had on the wall of Daniel in the lion's den. Drawing. Some of you may have seen this picture. There are several of them that they're really finely done. I don't know what an art critic would say, but for a young boy, it made such an impression on me. And my grandmother told me the story out of the Bible. And when she died, he died first, and when she died, that's the one thing that I asked if I could have, and I hung it in my office in the West Wing in the White House. And I had it in my congressional office. I had it in my Senate office. And I have it today. And the lesson of that story is do the right thing. Stand up for what you believe. And if there are wild beasts that are angry about it or hungry to get you, well, you trust. Trust in the Lord. Trust in your conscience. Trust in doing the right thing. That lesson for me came from here in Smith County. And my family came here, I was about to say, because my grandfather, Allen Gore, floated logs down the river with a young man his age named Cordell Hull from up in Pickett County. And some of you know his birthplace up there. And it seems like all good things work their way down from the Upper Cumberland to Carthage, but they floated logs down the river. And because of that boyhood friendship, when my father showed a little promise and did well in school and developed an ambition to try to make things better, he was able to call on that friendship that his father had with Hull. And my grandfather was a dirt farmer, and he did okay, but they really had to scramble to get by. But he had that friendship, and my father then had the opportunity to go and introduce himself to Judge Hull. And of course, the bridge you were talking about earlier, the Cordell Hull Bridge, named after him. And Judge Hull, before he became congressman, was a judge up in the Upper Cumberland counties. And to this day, see, I went around, of course, to all 95 counties on a regular basis. And in most places in the county courthouse, you'll see a picture above the head man's seat, and it's either of George Washington. You don't see too many Abraham Lincolns in this part of the country, but Thomas Jefferson or George Washington. In those 10 counties up there, it's still Cordell Hull, because he made such an impression on the people who knew him and heard him and respected his judgment and character. And he made that impression on my father. and he established a tradition of public service. And maybe it's not so popular today, but he was the author of the constitutional amendment that made the income tax possible. And, you know, with all the ranting and railing against the income tax today, listen, we're better off when all of the extra income does not go straight up to the top 1% or the 0.1% or the 0.01%, and that's not an Occupy Wall Street liberal slogan. That is a fact. We are better off with policies like the ones championed by Hull to have adequate resources to provide high-quality public education, to have bridges. And if a community needs not just one bridge but two, let's take a look at that. And you were talking about the old bridge. Of course, the new bridge was built under the so-called bridge replacement program. And my accountant, Larry Taylor Wilkerson, and I have talked about this so many times. And then all of a sudden, all the business people and others that have to go out several times a day from Carthage to down Highway 70 heading west, oh my gosh, what a burden that is. And all of the traffic for the downtown businesses in Carthage that used to come from that part of the county. Well, I don't need to tell the Chamber of Commerce what that was. And so several of the business people, several of you here, asked if I could help. Well, I didn't. I was out of the Congress by then, serving vice president, and you didn't mention his name, but Robert Byrd from West Virginia had by that time taken the position that Kenneth D. McKellar had years earlier, the chairmanship of the Senate Appropriations Committee, and I explained the situation. And he said, Smith County. He said, yeah, I think I've been there. He'd driven through here. He said, all right, Al, we'll do it. And and I am so happy that within just a few weeks, this is going to happen. And it came about because of the Chamber of Commerce and individual businessmen and women got together and said, listen, this is just not working. We're going to have to do this better. But anyway, Cordell Hull, through his influence on my father, influenced me. And Carthage and Smith County, I just can't, I've said it, I just can't say it enough. In one of those campaign announcements on the steps of the courthouse, I described Smith County as a place where people know about it when you're born and care about it when you die. I remember that day when Bill and Hillary Clinton came here, and I talked about Smith County and Carthage, and I said, you know, there's an old African proverb that it takes a village to raise a child. I look over at Hillary, and she made a note on that. Now, you go back and look at the tape. That's exactly where that came from. And several people from Smith County did me the honor of going over to Oslo, Norway for a big award ceremony a few years ago. And I have said on many occasions, whenever people ask me about that the headline that meant the most to me by far, and what I've told you will give this some meaning, I hope, was a headline in the Carthage Courier. Eddie West, I guess you wrote it, but the headline was, Gore wins same prize Hull won. And I absolutely love that, and I put it in my speech there, and I said to him, the reason that's the most meaningful thing to me that has been written is because there would have been no greater pleasure for my parents, who were by then deceased, to read that. If they could read that, oh my gosh, that it gave me such joy and such pleasure. So I've already talked too long. I hardly ever make a speech these days without talking about global warming. And I'm not going to make an exception here. I'm not going to belabor it, but I'm going to tell you in plain language why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'll tell you this, that when I put together the slideshow that I took around the world and it was made into a movie and all that. When I first got to where I felt like I could communicate the essence of this was on Center Hill Lake on the front of a houseboat. I have a houseboat now. I love my redneck yacht. But this was a rented houseboat, and a bunch of my buddies were there from around and about. And late at night, I shouldn't say, preacher, that there was some Pabst Blue Ribbon on that boat, but late at night I got to showing this, and when I heard their reaction, I said, all right, I'm going to take this on the road. So here's the deal. 150 years ago, we started, the first oil well was drilled. We were already using coal, but then both coal and oil got really going. Now, all around the world, we got, when I was born, 2 billion people, now there's 7 billion. And 85% of all the energy is based on coal and oil and a few other fossil fuels, mainly coal and oil. And so every day we put 98 million tons of this gaseous pollution into the air, and it traps the outgoing heat, and the temperature's going up. And that disrupts the water cycle. And so these downpours, you remember about 4 years ago in Nashville, where they had that once in a 1,000-year flood, they called it. 3 weeks ago in Panama City, Florida, they had 2 feet of rain in 26 hours. And hundreds of times per month around the world, this kind of deluge is occurring, and the mudslides. Now, why is that happening? Well, when the oceans get warmer, they evaporate more of it into the air. And the warmer air holds more. Just like you take a hot shower, the mirror steams up. Take a cold shower, it doesn't. Warm air hold water. And there's a lot more of it up there now, just because of the extra heat. And so when there's a storm, it draws it in from far off and funnels it down into a downpour. If you've got a bathtub full of water and you pull the drain, the water rushing down the drain doesn't come from the part of the tub just directly above the drain. Obviously, it comes from the whole tub. Well, in the air, there are these big basins of that water vapor, so much more of it up there, so when there's a downpour, a lot of it comes down. In Nashville, of course, I have a home in Nashville now. It's my principal home, but I'm renovating my parents' home up on the farm here in Smith County and building a little cabin there. And my kids are grown now, and they're all excited. We come back as a family on a regular basis. Everybody will be here next week, as a matter of fact. But anyway, in Nashville, my neighbors down there, thousands of them lost their homes and businesses when that downpour took place. No, they didn't have insurance because it never flooded in those areas. Now, you remember Superstorm Sandy, the hurricane that hit New York City. Why was that so strong? It came across the Atlantic Ocean that was 9 degrees warmer than normal. And that's what makes the wind strong there. And that extra moisture and the wind speed. Back the movie I referred to, some of the critics, the one thing they criticized more than anything else was a scene in that movie that had an animation of the Atlantic Ocean water going into the World Trade Center Memorial site. They said, oh, that can never happen. That's ridiculous. What are you talking about? Well, it happened on October 29th, 2012, way ahead of schedule. And other things are happening. Miami Beach, you see the films of this recently? They'll go without rain for weeks and weeks and weeks, but there's a little high tide. People are walking ankle deep in water. #1 city in the world on sea level rise, according to assets at risk. Norfolk, where the world's largest Navy base is, they're going to have to move it because the seawater is already coming in. They'll have some time to do it. We have to adjust to this and adapt to it. But we have to stop using the air as a sewer. And you know the old saying, out of sight, out of mind. This global warming pollution, we can't see it with our eyes. Doesn't mean it's not there. It's there. And we can't use the atmosphere as an open sewer. This is going to be difficult. There are really 2 questions people have. One is, do we have to change? Do we have to change? Well, the answer to that question that comes from the scientists and also from Mother Nature with all these extreme weather events. Look at California today, 100% of the state in severe, extreme, or exceptional drought. Biggest farming states in real trouble. You can go right down the list. Mother Nature is saying, yes, we have to change. We can't keep using the air as a sewer. Second question is, can we change? The answer to that is yes also. Because of investments that have been made, partly by the government, mainly by business, we have seen the development of these solar panels. Anybody here have a solar panel? I'm curious. You've got one? I've got them. There's 79 countries now where electricity from those solar cells is now cheaper than electricity from coal and oil. And because the cost keeps coming down every single year, and the cost of coal and oil keeps on going up. So we have a chance to do it right and to change. It won't be easy. And before I close, I want to say that I wouldn't have been true to myself if I didn't share with you what's most on my mind. That's what Cordell Hull would have done. That's what my father would have done. And that's what you would have done if you really felt strongly about something and had tried your best to convince people. And I'm going to keep on trying to convince people. And as I do so, I'm always going to remember where I came from and where my heart is, where my roots are, where my home is. And to this Chamber of Commerce, I say once again, congratulations on your 40th anniversary. Thank you so much for inviting me to be the speaker on this wonderful occasion. And I appreciate the invitation to the 60th, and I accept. Thank you.
Mr. Gore, I appreciate you being here tonight and have asked me to present a resolution honoring you, and I would like to read this. It is rather lengthy, and just be patient with me. But as county mayor here in Smith County, I represent a great range of people, for sure, and I appreciate what you said tonight, and the memories that you went back and shared with us. Of course, I wasn't born until 1965, so I don't know how old that makes you feel, but I aggravate people that are older than me. But I appreciate the memories that you shared with us tonight and the honor of Cordell Hull, your father, and I think about how things have changed. I mean, it truly has changed in Smith County, around the world, and I count it an honor to be able to recognize you here tonight. A resolution honoring the friendship, dedication, and devotion to the citizens of Smith County for the Honorable Al Gore. Whereas the Smith County Mayor Michael Nesbitt at the Smith County Chamber of Commerce banquet on this, the 9th day of June in the year of our Lord, 2014, wishes to recognize by this resolution the commitment and contributions provided to the citizens of Smith County throughout the years as a loyal public servant in the United States House of Representatives, the United States Senate, and as the 45th Vice President of the United States. And whereas Vice President Gore was born on March the 31st, 1948, to Tennessee natives Albert Arnold Al Gore Sr. and Pauline LaFawn Gore, who made their home in Smith County. And whereas Vice President Gore spent many of his formative years throughout his life on the hills and farms of Smith County and maintains a home here today. And whereas many of the Vice President Gore's campaign announcements were made on the steps of the historic Smith County Courthouse. And whereas a debt of gratitude is owed to the Vice President Gore for the improvements to the lives and well-being of the people of Smith County through his influence, hard work, and tireless dedication as an elected official. And whereas in 2007 in Oslo, Norway, Vice President Gore made all Smith County proud when he accepted the Nobel Peace Prize. And whereas Vice President Gore continues his work for the betterment of his fellow man through his dedication to the environment, and whereas we still proudly consider Vice President Gore a Smith Countyan, and now therefore let it be resolved by the Smith County Mayor Michael Nesbitt at this, the annual banquet of the Smith County Chamber of Commerce, to go on record as paying honor and giving recognition to the loyalty, achievements, and devotions of Vice President Albert A. Gore, Jr., dated at Carthage, Tennessee, 9th day of June 2014, signed by Michael Nesbitt, Smith County Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm proud that you announced that you're a member up there at the church. That's good. That's a great thing.
Thank you.
God bless you.
What do you give a man that has the Nobel Peace Prize? I thought about that a lot, and I come up with nothing. There's nothing that you can give a man that has received that. The only thing we could come up with, and I have to thank Judy Smith for this, I was over taking some pictures of the Cordell Hall Bridge, and she and I were looking at the theme for the banquet, and as you'll notice, it's bridging past successes with future opportunities. And we thought about some of the stories that were told here today about Cordell Hall and how that we reach into the past and we see what those folks have done and we build on that. 1974, the Chamber of Commerce was formed so that we could have an industrial park here so that our children would have a place to work and a place to have jobs. It was because of the foresight that they had that we have some of the things that we have today. I hope that we are doing the same thing, and that we're building a future for our children. And I hope my little 4-year-old granddaughter gets to live here and live in Smith County and enjoy it like I have and have the kind of life that I've had, because I think it's a wonderful place to live, wonderful people, and I can't brag enough about it. And so that's why we came to the conclusion that we were going to give you a picture of the Cordell Hall Bridge. One is old and one is new.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. Very much. Thank you very much.
God bless you. Thank you for being here. Oh.